Hey guys, this is Jenny, and I am back for my TBT Thursday video, and I'm combining it again with the Come On Get Crafty old and new post that I'm going to do this week as well. And I may try to do that about once a month because that sort of ties them both together, and I really like the idea of mixing a bunch of old things with some of the new, especially in the same collection. So this week, instead of, I knew I kind of wanted to use a lot of the new Dear Lizzy collection, so I pulled some of the old ones, but I really went off of the photograph this week instead of the products. This is a photograph of my daughter with my niece, and they were both wearing chevron the other day, and it was really cute because my niece, who is 5, I believe she's 5, she is the biggest little fashion icon, and she's all about keeping up with the trends, which I thought was so funny, and I love the pattern of her little chevron palazzo pants. So I thought I would kind of go with that, and after last week's video, or I'm sorry, last week's post for Come On Get Crafty, where I used lots of Project Life cards as pattern paper, since I don't do Project Life, I pulled some of the same ones in the colors that were here. So I love this speech bubble that I thought I might use for journaling, and I thought that was nice with it, that little card, Life is Better with a Smile. I like that gray as a neutral, that stripe that ties them both in, and another tag of the this Made with Love that is from the Polka Dot Party, I believe. And along with the other old things, oops, are these epoxy stickers, and I just thought lots of those might be good. Along with this, we were actually celebrating my mother-in-law's birthday, so that is kind of my thought for the older pieces. And the newer pieces are all from the Serendipity collection, and that includes a 6x6 pad that I've already cut some things out of, a few of these stickers, these little puffy stickers, and the sort of multicolored chipboard thickers. And from that same collection, oh, and these the little sticker roll. So from that collection with the 6x6, I actually had gone ahead and I had done this for the wrapping for that birthday party for my mother-in-law, but I had used the new die cuts from Dear Lizzy to cut out some of the flowers from that to layer on, and I used some of the other pieces. But I used some of the same pieces from that paper pad to die cut some of these flowers, and I used them for the wrapping for that present, and I thought I might use some more of those. I also did some other neat little thing. I used that fun little piece of that sort of tie-dye liquidy paper for the leaves. I thought that was kind of neat. And I haven't used this yet. That's the piece of the die cut that is supposed to be sort of the center part of the flower. I haven't gotten to that yet, so I'll see about that. And I had used a piece of this on something else, so that was just one of the little, I used the die cut from Lawn Fawn, the Polaroid die cut for that. And then I used some of the other, I used another tag die cut for, it was not quite big enough, but almost big enough for the, this tag banner that was part of a cut apart sheet. So, but this one was perfect. This little perforated circle fit right on that camera. So anyway, those were some of the things I did trying to use my die cuts on top of those cut apart sheets. So I thought I might use one of those layered flowers potentially, or maybe layer with some of this behind those photographs. And I also have this transparency piece that I was going to use for layering that's from the Polka Dot Party collection. And another template, a masking template, I may use some modeling paste on. So I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm going to do in the background. I don't know whether I may do sort of a center cluster or maybe more of a linear piece because the photograph is lengthwise. But I also have pulled this chevron stamp from Studio Calico that, embarrassingly, I don't think I've ever used this one. I've used this one from Unity and Jelly Bean Soup. That's great, the chevron. So I kind of thought about making a little bit of background kind of in the center, and then making a cluster with the photograph and writing my journaling on that speech bubble card. So depending on all of that, I may use that. I also have this heart stamp from the Dear Lizzy polka dot, I think it's the Polka Dot Party collection. And I have pulled just some of the Heidi Swap inks, the navy, pink, and mint, and this Lemon Zest Color Theory, and just some white, and this kind of iridescent modeling paste. So I thought I might make the background, whether it's modeling paste or stamping, make it white or different sort of shades of white and fairly neutral, and then have the cluster be the very colorful thing, and maybe just make it lots of layers underneath the picture with just a little bit on the side. But I'm really going to just have fun with it and see what happens, and I'm going to get everything set up and be back to use some modeling paste. Okay, I went ahead and started by trimming my picture just a little bit, and decided not to use any modeling paste after all. I couldn't decide whether or not the circles were going to look right, since I was trying to make everything else more of this chevron base, and it was a little bit more angular. So I decided to start with this Studio Calico chevron stamp, and I inked it up with Versamark ink, and then just randomly put a vertical stripe down the center of the page. I didn't really try to line it up too much, and then used just some white, I believe it's Hero Arts Extra Fine embossing powder, and I didn't even prep that cardstock, so I really didn't want too much of it. I just wanted it to act as a heat resist, or I mean, sorry, a resist for the watercolor. So I dry it with my heat tool, and you can see it starting to pop up there in the background, and I decided to go ahead and just do sort of a background color wash of some, my favorite way to add some quick color to a page by using Distress ink and just rubbing it into the mat there, and then spritzing it with water. The paper does get pretty saturated by doing that, but it dried out pretty well, and then I adhered it to a piece of cardstock, so it wasn't too bad. So I just rubbed my ink pad into the paper there. It was broken china and peacock feathers, I believe, and then just dabbed the whole piece of cardstock into it, and obviously I had a lot left over. And then I kind of used a piece of paper towel to wipe off some of it and tried to make it a little bit more varied in color in different parts of it. I had this big drip that came off the side that I really didn't like, but I kind of ended up liking the way it turned out in the end. So I spent a good bit of time drying it out, and then I believe I just put some weights on it and moved on to the clustering part. So right, oh well, I did actually use some I believe it was the Mr. Huey's Boss Lady mist on the background, and just added a little bit more color to bring that pink out. And after all of that dried, then that's when I started this layering process. I used that piece of the transparency just right behind the photograph. I just wanted a little piece of the heart peeking out on all of the sides of it, and then just started to use that with those the speech bubble piece and that other Project Life card, and tried to make a little small kind of square cluster on top of. I really didn't want to hide too much of the background because I really liked the way it looked, but I wanted to get enough of the speech bubble to be able to write my journaling on there, and I wanted the whole piece of that Project Life card, the Life is Better with a Smile, to show. So that's kind of the way it ended up looking right there as far as clustering. And then I took the flower that I had die cut from that Dear Lizzy 6x6 pad. One of the layers of the flower is actually a piece of the crepe paper, the sort of gold vellum, striped vellum. So that's the one piece here that is not Dear Lizzy. So after I adhered that, I ended up adhering the photograph to the transparency and then pop the whole thing, the transparency, up on pop dots to give it a little bit of dimension, and added another piece of the 6x6 paper behind it. It took me a little while to figure out how this was all going to go together, since I needed to kind of get that on there and figure out how much journaling space I had before I adhered the photo down. But I just wanted to have another little piece of definition behind that, the transparency, so I just had another little small piece of that 6x6 pad that's got text on it. And then when I was happy with that, I went ahead and adhered the photograph. With a lot of pop dots. And I've actually been going through all of my scrapbooks lately and we're trying to put all my layouts into scrapbooks, and in the process of doing that have really seen how the test of time has stood on different adhesives and the number of pop dots and things like that that have been used, and I just decided that I want them to last and I want them to stay there, and I don't want them to be squished. So if I have to use some extra pop dots to do that, then that's fine with me. So I adhered those little pieces of the layers of the flower together, and then ended up stapling it, and two of those little leaves that I die cut from that sort of turquoise swirly paper, and kind of put that in the bottom right corner of that Project Life card because it was a little bit of a big blank space there. I really wanted to use one of these little stickers, but I couldn't figure out where to put it, and the hot pink color was just, it just bothered me because it was just a little bit too bright and different colored from the rest of the colors and that, which is kind of odd since most of them are usually still on the same color wave, but this that one little sticker was just had a little bit too much red in it, or maybe blue. So I used some of those epoxy stickers to put in the middle of that flower, and then in a couple other places on the one on the photograph, actually to cover up a ink spot that showed up on the photograph after printing it, and another one just on the layout itself. So I went ahead and wrote my little journaling. And then I adhered it down, and I had been trying to come up with a title. I wanted it something to use those stickers with, but I didn't really want too long of a title. I didn't want to have to take too much away from already a not very neutral background as it turned out to be. So I just came up with Cuz, C-U-Z, because these are my daughter and her cousin. So I finally get the cluster to where it's going to be, and then adhere the whole thing down instead of doing it in sort of pieces layered on top of each other, which I do quite a bit. Sometimes I staple it all together, but this one was just sort of adhered a little bit at a time. And I used a good bit of glossy accents on some of those flowers and things like that because I wanted to make sure that it stuck. And it kind of got a little bit heavy with the, well, I think I used Tombow there actually. It got a little bit heavy with the epoxy sticker and everything. I used another epoxy sticker there to hide one of the paint splotches I didn't like. So those were great for covering little boo-boos up, actually. And I just kind of messed around with a couple more of the little pieces of epoxy that celebrate, and added this little sort of chartreuse colored arrow just to tie in that same color, kind of in a little triangle there. And then after I put my title up onto the top left corner, I had forgotten there were a couple other heart shapes with the thicker, so I used the two of those. I'm still trying to find a place for that sticker and I couldn't do it. Keep thinking it might go somewhere, but it just bothered me, that color difference. It doesn't really look that different now, but it really in real life it did look a good bit different. So finally I think I start to get to the most of those epoxy stickers actually had lost their sticky or had fallen off, and then I'd put them back on, so that's why I used glossy accents to glue most of them down. I wasn't going to do any stitching on this layout at all, so I usually would maybe stitch through that, but I didn't on this one. So finally I'm going to get my title and then put those two chipboard hearts on the layout, and I write the date on there, and that is pretty much how it turned out. Make sure you visit the Come On Get Crafty blog for the for more ideas and for the sketch that is coming up tomorrow, and I will be back next week for another video. I'd love any feedback or comments that you might have, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks. Bye.